Alrighty, get out your notes and get ready because we're moving on into section 3. And have your notes packet ready and away we go. All right. Today's essential question has to do with subtraction. And it makes sense because we've spent the last 2 sections talking about addition. So now we're going to talk about its inverse operation with regard to integers. So your essential question should be, how do I subtract integers? Alrighty? So first thing I want you to do is, because we encounter so many word problems, we need to start thinking about words that mean subtract. So I want you to start kind of getting that thought process going in your head. And of course, probably some of the obvious ones are words like that. And of course, the actual word subtract, minus. So then I want you to start thinking of some other ones. And you can start jotting them down. I'm going to add some up here as well. Here's one that always works. Difference. That, let's see. When you were little, we might have used takeaway. Let's see what else. Less than or less. Reduce. Thinking of that one. Oftentimes we'll talk about football, and you've noticed some of your problems have had a lot of football in them. So for subtraction, we're often talking about a loss in yardage, a sack of the quarterback, those kinds of things. Let's see. That's a W. Take away. If we were talking about hiking or scuba diving, snorkeling, something like that, you might think of this word. Descend. That's a good down subtraction word, negative word like that. Let's see what else I've got up here. Ooh, descend, got that one. Ooh, drop. I didn't think of that one. Add that to your list. Takeaway, had that one. That was descend. Ooh, here's one. Find the change. That often is used in conjunction with the word difference. Okay, so that's a good one. Here's difference. We got that. Did we say loss? That's a good one. Oh, yep. I had that one. Minus. We had that one. Difference was up there. Let's see, what else have we got? Oh, the reduce. Yep. That one. Here's some money words that you may or may not be familiar with. So let's add this to our list as well. And then if and when we run into these, we'll start drilling these into our head that means subtract or a negative value. So number 1 is debit, like a debit card. That means you are deducting or subtracting from your bank balance, your bank account. Same thing with withdrawal. That's if you go to the ATM machine, start taking some money out. Withdrawal. All right, there's tons more words, but this gives us a good start and it gets our brain thinking about different words we can use to talk about subtraction. Now, here's the deal. I have 2 problems up here, and I have counters if you like to model that way, or the number line. But in all honesty, this first one, you've really been doing subtraction since you were teeny tiny, sitting in a high chair, playing with Cheerios. So 7 minus 3 we know is 4. But I want to look at the parallels here with this problem. 7 plus negative 3. That equals 4. First number was the same. This said minus 3, and this said plus negative 3. Let's look at the next one. 8 minus 5. And you're like, seriously? This is 7th grade? What are you talking about, lady? 8 plus negative 5 is also equal to 3. Let's look at another example. All right, this time I'm going to say 4 plus negative 7. Now, if you're a counter kind of person, you would say, all right, here's 4 positives, and then I need to add 7 negatives on there. So then you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, And then you make your 0 pairs, boom, 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 and you end up with -3. Or if you're a number line person, you went over to 4, and then you had to come backwards 3, and boom, there you are. Okay? If I just said 4 minus 7, now, when you were younger, we didn't talk about trying to take away more than what is physically there because we kind of determined that was impossible. But now that you see negatives, if you start at 4 and try to take away 7 or move to the left, you end up with -3. Adding -7, subtracting 7. They both started from 4. I get the same answer. Let's take a look at this one. -6 and -5. That's -11. Okay. If you start with -6 and reduce it 5 more, take away 5 more, go in negative land 5 more, you're going to end up here also at -11. Coincidence? I think not. Here's what's really going on. And I hate to tell you this. It's not that your elementary teachers were mean. It's just that, calling upon my good friends Jamie and Adam from Mythbusters, subtraction really does not exist. Not kidding. We told you this myth when you were first learning addition and subtraction, but the reason we did that is because you really didn't know anything about negatives yet. So subtraction made sense when we defined it that way. But here's what I want you to write down in your notes. Subtraction doesn't exist. Subtraction really means add the opposite number. And if we keep that in mind, dealing with subtraction is a piece of cake because it's really addition in disguise. So let's take a look at this because I threw an algebraic expression up here, 8 minus j, and I want you to substitute -6 in for the value of j. So you're going to say 8 minus, let's plug in -6. Ugh, look at all that negative stuff, okay? The reason now I want you to think that subtraction means add the opposite, watch what happens. You're going to keep that first number as is. Change subtract to add, and then take the second number and use the opposite. Subtraction means add the opposite. What? This is really just 8 plus 6, which is +14? If you were thinking about using a number line, really subtraction means kind of going the opposite direction. So if you have 8 and you were starting over here at +8, like here's 0, here's +8, and then I'm going to tell you to subtract -6. Normally -6 would mean move to the left, but by subtracting, that means do the opposite. So instead of going to the left, go to the right 6 more, and that's why you land at 14. Look at this one. Oh my goodness, could we have more negative signs in one single little problem? -5 minus the variable r, and we're going to substitute a value of -2 in for my variable r. Subtraction means add the opposite. So that first number is in front of the subtraction sign, so don't change anything. That's why I say keep it. Keep it just like it is. But then you need to add the opposite, which becomes +2. All right, you have different signs. Remember your strategy here. This guy's absolute value is more powerful, so your answer is going to end up being -3. Boom. Oh my goodness. Everything just turns into addition. Look at this. All right, let's start getting into some real life things so I can illustrate some stuff for you. Do you know what the highest point supposedly on Earth is? I just looked this up. It looks like that. Do you know what that is? This is actually kind of a picture of Mount Everest, and this is 29,035 feet above sea level. Holy cow. Okay, write that down. Highest point on Earth, Mount Everest, and you can just put that number there, 29,035. Now, how about the lowest point? Do you know what that is? It's not New Orleans. It's not in the desert. It's actually in the Pacific Ocean, okay? And this lowest point is in the Mariana Trench. So if you kind of look at this map, there's a spot there that is called Challenger Deep, which I guess they've reported is 36,060 feet below sea level. Good gravy, that's low. So we are going to think of that as negative because it's below sea level. Now, do you notice I have a little number line off here to the side? If I wanted you to find how far is it between these two elevations, I want you to think, and go ahead, just pick anywhere in the middle here and call that 0, because this is sea level right there. Somewhere way up here, and just go ahead and draw it in. Here's Mount Everest, Mount E, we'll call it, at 29,035 feet. Here's the Mariana Trench, way down here at negative 36,060 feet, okay? And actually, I know I got to bump this up so you can see it, okay? Mariana Trench. Ugh, sloppy. All right, if we want to find the difference between these two, from Mount Everest, subtract the bottom here, which is negative 36,060. And when you do that, keep that first number and add the opposite. So this becomes plus the opposite of negative 36,060, which, oh my stars, is positive. So really, you just end up having to add these two together. Let's see, 65,095 feet. Holy cow. But that makes sense, because really, if we were at the top of the mountain, measuring from just here to here, distance is an absolute value. That's 29,035. If I was measuring just from here to here, even though this is a negative number, the distance between there is 36,060. Add the two together. Boom. There we go. So subtraction means keep the first number. That one doesn't change. It's in front of the subtraction sign, so you don't have to do anything. Good grief. Do you think I could spell today? Here we go. Eraser. Keep the first number as is. Add, so change your subtraction to adding. Change subtract to add. And then take the opposite of the second number. So oftentimes you'll hear me say, keep, add the opposite, or subtraction means add the opposite, add the opposite. Ready? Here we go. Let's go to town. First example, rewrite this way. -7, circle the subtraction sign. Now we're going to add the opposite of 4, which means -4. You can add. You've been doing that. Boom. Pause the video for a second and work ahead a little bit and then come back and check your answers. Here we go. Keep 8 as is. That's in front. Subtraction means add the opposite. If it helps you, if you want to put a little positive sign there so it kind of reinforces what you're doing. Oh, sweet. Everything's positive. Go. Next one. Keep, and then we're going to, instead of subtract, we're going to add the opposite. Boom. All right, combine those two together. This one has a stronger absolute value, so my answer is -3. Keep the 3. Write this as add the opposite. That'd be positive 6. Oh, totally positive. Cool. Let's do a few examples. Oh, we have 2 more here. Negative 4. Subtraction means add the opposite. Negative 7. Instead of subtract, add the opposite. All right, these signs are different. The 8 is positive, and that has a larger absolute value or more strength. So my final answer is going to be positive. And then find the difference, and you get 1. Take a look at this one. These crazy people are playing football out in the freezing cold weather. The temperature at the start of a football game was -1 degrees Fahrenheit. At halftime, the temperature was -9 degrees Fahrenheit. Find the change in the temperature. So, when you're finding change, here's what I want you to think about. You take the ending point and subtract, find the difference from the end back to the start or the beginning. Okay? So, at halftime, we were at -9. That's when you apparently stopped taking temperature readings. And then we have to subtract where we started. We started at -1. Keep, add, opposite. Your final answer should be -8 degrees. Now, does that make sense? I want you to think about this. If I look at a thermometer this way, here's 0, then here comes -1, here's -9. I started here, and then I ended up here. You can clearly see you dropped 8 more degrees. That's why we get a -8 degrees. In words, how would you find 5 minus 7? Pause for a second, think about that, then restart when you're ready. All right, so we're going to keep 5. So start with 5, and that 5 stays the same. So I'm going to start with 5. And then I am going to add the opposite of 7. Okay, because normally I would circle this, make it plus, 5 stayed the same, and then take the opposite of 7, which is -7. Okay, which gives you -2, which gives you, or equals, there you go. Backside, a couple more questions quick. Here's another temperature one. We started at 8 a.m. It was -14, and by noon it was 12 degrees. Find the difference in the temperature. So remember, you always take the end number minus the start. That's how you find the way it changed. So I ended out at 12. I start at -14. Keep, add the opposite. There you go. Let's label it. So if it's positive, that means it's increasing. Does that make sense? It started at -14, and then I ended up at 12. So you increased quite a bit to get across the 0 and into positive land. Take a look at this one. It said when Iris subtracted -12 minus another -12, she got a difference of -24. Is her answer correct? And if not, what mistake did she make? Pause, write something down, and then when you're ready to check it, start back up again. Let's see. So keep the -12. I change this to add. The opposite of -12 is +12. That should be 0. Is she correct? No, I'm sorry, Iris, you weren't. What mistake do you think she made? Well, if she got -24, looks like she maybe kept this guy negative. It looks like maybe she decided to add, but she didn't add the opposite. So I'm going to say, what mistake did she make? Iris didn't add the opposite. And that's why she got negative 24. Okay, looks like she just added negative 12. All right, here we go. Check Schoology, see what your assignment is, and as always, may the force be with you. Good luck. Watch those signs.